Imagínate ser el hijo de una leyenda del automovilismo mundial y de pronto todo ese mundo que conoces desaparece. Esto fue lo que ocurrió cuando Damon Hill tenía 15 años. Su papá Graham falleció y su familia se reestructuró. A los 15 años Damon hacía repartos en moto para ayudar a su familia y la velocidad lo invitó a ser parte. Comenzó a competir, a ganar carreras, hasta que su madre le dijo basta. Empezando a buscar un lugar dentro del automovilismo, lo único que encontró prácticamente fue el rechazo.
I'd started too late. I went and saw Ken Tyrrell in his offices in Ockley, and he very graciously gave me the time to come and speak to him, and he just said, "You're not going to get to Formula One. You haven't got any money." Ken Tyrrell saying you're never going to get to Formula One. Even John Webb, who owned Brands Hatch, also said to me, he said, "You'll never make Formula One. You're too old." So I had all these people telling me I was too old. So I'm trying to reverse the story.
Era dejarlo todo y empezar a buscar otro trabajo, a buscar una vida totalmente diferente o intentarlo una vez más.
A lot of other things happened. Got married, had a child with Down syndrome, bought a house, and basically I was at the verge. There was a tipping point. There was a point at which I could either go and get a proper job, or I give it one more go. And so it was a really bizarre turn of events, because literally I'd run out of steam with the opportunities in car racing. And I just decided to drive anything that came along. And if anyone gave me a drive, which they did, I said, I need paying. So I said, it's 500 quid, if you want me to drive your Ford Cosworth Sierra around Donington. And so from that point on, I became kind of professional driver. I got an opportunity in Formula 3000, and then I was driving a Lola that happened to be a good car. And that was enabled me to get pole positions. And then Williams noticed there's this English guy called Damon Hill who's getting on pole position in the Formula 3000 Championship. And they gave me a test drive. So I got into Williams. And it was in the space of 2 years or something, I suddenly went from being completely washed up to being in a position where the door could open for me to have a full-time Grand Prix drive in Formula One with the best team.
Esta difícil situación que puede diezmar a más de uno, a Damon nunca lo doblegó, porque él nunca dejó de soñar, o mejor dicho, nunca dejó de creer.
When I was testing with Williams, there was no guarantee of getting a Formula One drive at all. I mean, there was no prospect that the Williams seat would become available. It was highly sought after. I wasn't content with just being a test driver. So I knew that if I was to be thought of as a racing driver, then I needed to get out there and race something. And the opportunity came up to drive yet again the least desirable car. So on the one hand, I was testing the most coveted seat in Formula One in Williams, and then this drive came up at Brabham, or an opportunity. On its knees, Brabham team. It was the death throes of the Brabham team. It had been sold. There wasn't any money, and we qualified for the British Grand Prix and Hungary. And I wish I hadn't qualified for Hungary, because it was brutally uncomfortable, that car. And I was lapped about 7 times.
Empezaron a generarse situaciones que hicieron de que el equipo contrate a Alain Prost. Mansell deja la Fórmula 1, se va a la IndyCar y por descarte Frank Williams elige la opción que tenía más a mano.
All the drivers have been mopped up. Last few races of the season, there was a chance that I might be in that seat. And I remember going down to Adelaide, the last race of the season, where I thought, well, I better show my face. I think Frank sort of ran out of options. He couldn't find anyone else, and was persuaded by the engineering crew, who thought I could do a good job. Door opened and in I went. So I was very unlikely Grand Prix debutante with a Grand Prix winning team, age 32, I think. Well, but I had a terrible start. I had an off in the first race, famously went backwards at turn 2, I think, in Kyalami. And I remember thinking when I was going backwards that all these guys coming towards me were thinking, well, we did say, we told you he wasn't up to it. So I didn't cover myself in glory in the first race.
También se repuso a esta situación y aprovechando su trabajo, el gran auto que tenía entre sus manos.
Didn't I nearly win in Hockenheim? Hungary comes along and they're kind of, well, I mean, it was, what can I say? You know, Alain stalled on the grid or something went wrong and he started at the back, so I had a massive advantage from him. And then realizing that the guy who was in third place or second place was in front of me, I could see him. So we were so far ahead, all I had to do is not make a howling error and it would all be done. So that was finally crossed the threshold of being a Grand Prix driver and then being a Grand Prix winner, would get that opportunity. So I was pretty pleased I crossed over the line in first place.
En 1994 el automovilismo se rompió y allí estaba Damon Hill. Tuvo que decidir cómo continuar.
I didn't know that Ayrton had died until after the race. So I knew he wasn't well. So I did know that it was a serious accident, but I also knew that the only job I had to do was to race the car. And, you know, I'm not a doctor, I can't go and help Ayrton. So I had a job to do and I wanted to show the team that I was prepared to drive their car. You know, I had faith in their car. And so get back in your car and carry on.
Acostumbrado a escuchar, a vivir historias de los amigos de su padre que habían quedado en el camino, la muerte en el automovilismo no le era algo ajeno.
And of course I grew up in a time when my dad lost all his friends. So it wasn't unexpected, but that it doesn't half shake you and it doesn't half make you think, what am I doing risking my neck? And especially as I had by that time I had 2 children. You do have to visit that and really come to a justifiable excuse for becoming a racing
La clave estaba en cómo reconstruirse.
I wanted to do the very best I could because I wanted the team to win and I wanted us to beat Benetton and Michael because that's the nature of the game. There was disquiet over the way that they were going about their business. It was quite wrapped up with the loss of Ayrton as well, the motivation to carry on racing.
Se había recuperado un golpe al corazón como fue la pérdida de Ayrton Senna, pero tenía que recuperarse también de un golpe a la ilusión.
Take the title fight to Michael. He was a very fast, very ruthless competitor. He sort of became the villain. Maybe unfairly, I don't know. I mean, but you know, the end of the season, it was a famous collision which ended the championship in his favour, and people were upset by that. I was a bit put out. It wasn't what we wanted. It wasn't the way we wanted it to end. But I learned another lesson. You know, you don't ever stick your nose down the inside of a racing driver when they've got more points than you. For a lot of people, also, they couldn't understand how you could call that sport, how you could call that a result.
Presten atención cómo analiza Damon Hill aquella situación, aquella definición polémica.
And really, my argument has always been, I mean, Michael will do what he's got to do, I've got to do what I've got to do, and then you have these people called the umpire, you know, and the umpire's job is to make sure that the sport is, and they really are the arbiter of the result. They should decide whether it's a yes or a no. But I think back then there wasn't quite the certainty as to, they didn't want to interfere too much, and they certainly didn't want to overturn what appears to be. This is what I can't explain to people. I wasn't disappointed because I never expected, you know, that I would be world champion. At the start of the year, I expected Ayrton to be there.
Para 1996 pudo detectar el problema. No era la pista, era él.
I think that 96, I'd had the bruising of 95, and I had to learn what had gone wrong. And I think it was all off track. It was all in the mind. So I think I took some advice from a person who was an American lady called Mary Spillane, and I got her over, and she gave me some coaching in terms of media. And that was a big help because it gave me tools to deal with the business, and it gave me a strategy and a way to prepare myself. And so coming into 96, I think I was much better prepared.
Entendió perfectamente que ese era su momento y lo atrapó.
I would say much more complete as a driver, much more confident, much more experienced, all those things. You know, I knew the team, I knew what I was doing. So this was definitely, I knew that was my golden opportunity.
Su altísimo rendimiento no hizo más que motivarlo.
I think it was more the performance. So there was a lot of races where I qualified well, I drove well, I set the car up well, and everything was put together, and I got the fastest lap or whatever. So we'd call it, the full set. The 3 cherries, fastest lap, pole position, win the race. Can't do better. You clean up, and it's the quality of the performance and the consistency of the performance that was gratifying. That I could do that time and again, and do a perfect job. So when I had the opportunity to do it, I did do it, and I think I started every race on the front row, which was, I don't know if that's still a record, but it was a record then. But
hubo una última prueba que tuvo que atravesar incluso antes de la definición del campeonato.
There was so much kind of contradictory evidence about what had happened or why it had happened. But anyway, it's a bit odd that I could win the championship, or was winning the championship, and then not given the chance to defend it at Williams the following year. I had to leave. I mean, they gave me the best shot of winning a title, and they took me on as a test driver. I have no regrets about my time at Williams. What happened, and it's part of Formula One.
Nada de eso lo detuvo.
It's still an extraordinary experience to cross the line and then be declared. In fact, I was declared world champion before the end of the race, but anyway, I finished the race and won the race, and then you've arrived. Gratifying thing. I think I felt very pleased with myself. I worked hard to get there and been through quite a lot, and I think it was Michael who came second and congratulated me, and no hard feelings, and then everything flows. It's all a bit surreal, honestly, but it's a great feeling.
Después de haber llegado a lo más alto del automovilismo mundial, nos regala esta maravillosa enseñanza de liderazgo.
The experience is the thing. In other words, it's having a go. I won 22 Grand Prix in a World Championship. I can't really be unhappy with that, and I'm not. My dad always said that nothing's impossible. So I always took the view that all the naysayers were, or what Eddie Jordan would call the begrudgers. You just have to put that out of your mind. If people say something's impossible, well, let's find out. Let's find out what's possible. So I was pretty satisfied with myself that I could actually say, okay, well, anything else impossible, let's have a go at that.
Antes de retirarse, dejó algunos hitos más. Casi gana una carrera imposible con el modestísimo equipo Arrows en Hungría en 1997, y en 1998 le dio al equipo Jordan su primera victoria en la Fórmula 1. Tal vez no fue un fuera de serie. Él fue constante, metódico, pero sobre todas las cosas, determinado. Esto es liderazgo desde el motorsport. Les dejo un abrazo grande.